Our first topic is about Turning Point USA. And in case you haven't noticed, they have announced that they are going on a brand new tour, which will be called This Is the Turning Point. If you don't remember, after Charlie Kirk passed away, after he was assassinated, they paused all Turning Point endeavors for a few days. However, it's been about 2 weeks now, and they announced that they were going back on tour and continuing what Charlie started. Their first stop was yesterday at the University of Minnesota, and of course Charlie Kirk is not here with us to be the host of those events now, so what they're doing for this new tour, which is titled This Is the Turning Point, for all the stops that they have, they're going to have different guests, different commentators come in the place of Charlie. And so for yesterday's event, they had Michael Knowles, who is a conservative commentator, a Catholic. He works for the Daily Wire, and he was the host yesterday, taking the place of Charlie. However, in the beginning, if you watched it, there was a little ode in homage to Charlie. They had a chair on the side with Charlie's Freedom shirt and the microphone. And, that's basically just to, give honor to Charlie, as he did start the company, he did start the movement, and this whole, campus tour became hugely famous, this idea, because of Charlie. He'd do it for years. He was a very busy person. He went all around the country, all across the world, doing his thing. And I think it's a really good idea for all these commentators to come together and to continue it. So the event started. Michael Knowles gave a speech, and then he had the iconic thing that Charlie Kirk used to do, was to have people that were in the audience to line up and ask him questions, whether they disagreed with him or agreed with him. They would have a one-on-one conversation with Charlie, and then Charlie would give his answer. And so Michael Knowles did that, and it was pretty cool. They had a few students. They didn't have a ton of students online. They had like 2,000 students inside the event. And yes, it was an indoor event because for safety reasons. I don't think for the near future they're going to have any events outdoors, which is, very understandable. So they had it indoor in like an auditorium of the school, I'm assuming. However, before we talk about the Michael Knowles doing the debates, I want to talk about the beginning, when they had the president of the Turning Point chapter at the University of Minnesota. And it was really cool because she, went on stage and they were just talking. And she introduced herself to the audience, saying that she started this chapter, she's the president, and she is so happy to see how the movement has grown. And of course she talked about how she basically gave her some words of encouragement for everyone in the audience who felt upset about what happened to the founder, Charlie. And then she went on saying, if you want to start a chapter, go to the website, talk to people outside. They had tables set up and everything. That looked really cool. And so she gave her thing, and Michael Knowles came in. And I have to say, I have to give credit to Charlie Kirk, because he had a very distinct way of debating people. And I didn't really realize it until we had Michael Knowles yesterday, is that Charlie Kirk kind of was a really fast thinker. And so he thought of the answers to any questions that people brought up in like 15 seconds and was able to deliver it in like 15 seconds. And apparently not everyone has that gift. I call it a gift. And people have different, specialties. And Michael Knowles mostly focuses on like a podcast and giving speeches. But when it came to the quick, one-on-one conversations with strangers, really, Michael Knowles, his approach was different. He would think about the question that somebody gave him and kind of think about it and then give a very long, in-depth response, rather than Charlie Kirk kind of like spewing 2 or 3 sentences trying to like make them stop. And that was really interesting because I never noticed how unique Charlie Kirk's way of debating was. It was very unique, and when Michael Knowles came in, of course he did a great job. There was most of them that came up yesterday, of course, were in support of Michael Knowles, but there was one token liberal, which I'll put a little clip here. It was quite funny.
Country.
Jimmy Kimmel never said anything. Jimmy Kimmel said that the shooter was a MAGA Republican, and that's a lie. There's no evidence.
One of us, and he quoted by Republicans. Look, we can debate on what.
We don't have to debate. It's a lie. It's an obvious and egregious lie. We don't need to pretend that this is complicated at all. The shooter was a radical left-wing activist who inscribed Antifa slogans on the bullets and was dating a trans furry boyfriend. I don't think he voted for Trump. Kimmel lied. The audience turned on him. The affiliates turned on him. He deserves to lose his job. I'm frankly disappointed that he's getting his job again, but I'm confident even fewer people will watch it this time.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm glad you understood my point.
So yeah, after Michael Knowles gave the answer to the one liberal in the audience, it was really cool because it's just so it's so weird to see somebody doing what Charlie did, but it's not Charlie because he did it for so long. But of course, you see on the internet so many people doing the debates that Charlie did in their own schools, in their own high schools, in their own wherever they can, they set up a camera and just start filming them conversing with other people that disagree with them. And seeing Michael Knowles do it was really cool. However, what I think is really nice is that it's not just Michael Knowles that's gonna continue the mission that Charlie started. At every tour stop from this is the Turning Point tour that Turning Point USA has just started. At every tour stop, there's going to be different commentators or different conservative leaders that are going to come in and kind of try to do what Charlie did in his honor. So we're going to go over that. So of course, yesterday at the University of Minnesota, it was Michael Knowles. The next stop is September 24th at Virginia Tech, and that one's going to be with Megyn Kelly and Governor Glenn Youngkin. Of course, I'm very familiar with Megyn Kelly. Of course, if you don't know who she is, she's like also similar. Oh, she came from Fox. Or before that, she was a lawyer. She became a Fox News host, like one of the biggest ones, and then she became an independent. And she has her podcast, and she was a good friend of Charlie Kirk, and so it makes sense that she would step up and, in Charlie's honor, continue what he started. After that, on September 30th, they're gonna go to Utah State University with Alex Clark, Senator Mike Lee, Governor Spencer Cox, Representative Andy Biggs, and Honorable Jason Chaffetz. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not familiar with the latter half, but Alex Clark, she has a show already with Turning Point USA called Culture Apothecary. I don't really watch it, but I know of it, and she was good friends with Charlie, and so it makes sense she's gonna be there. So that's gonna be nice. And after that, the next tour stop is in October 7th. That's an interesting date. It better not be Ben Shapiro. That's horrible. In Montana State University with Vivek Ramaswamy and Governor Greg Granfort. Of course, Vivek was a good friend of Charlie's. Ran for president, and now he's running for governor. And so it makes sense that Vivek is gonna do this. And it actually is like a continuation because about a year ago, before the 24 election cycle, Vivek did tour with Charlie Kirk, and he was like right beside Charlie, and they would debate stuff. So I guess Vivek does have experience in this type of debate style. Following that, it would be on October 9th at the University of North Dakota with Glenn Beck, of course, a good friend of Charlie. He actually had a very touching reaction to the news that Charlie Kirk had passed away. He's a great guy. I believe he founded The Blaze. After that, it is on October 16th, the University of Oklahoma to be announced, and then in October 21, the Indiana University Bloomington with Tucker Carlson, of course, the former CNN anchor, Fox News host. Now he's independent, his own network, the Tucker Carlson Network, super successful. And I don't know how close he was to Charlie, but I'm assuming they had some sort of relationship for him to step up in this capacity. So that's gonna be great. I'm a big fan of Tucker. And then on October 27 at Louisiana State University, they're gonna bring Allie Beth Stuckey and Governor Jeff Landry. Of course, Allie Beth Stuckey is also a commentator, very famous, very successful, and I'm looking forward to that. I see her interviews are very cool. And then in October 29 at Ole Miss, I'm not sure where that is, but that's to be announced. And then in November 15th, November 5th, at Auburn University, it is also going to be announced very soon, as well as in the last stop of this tour. I'm sure they're going to have more in the future, but out of this tour, the last one will be in November 10th. On November 10th at UC Berkeley with Rob Schneider and Frank Turek. Now this one I'm particularly excited for, the last stop of this tour, because Rob Schneider is a comedian, so I think he's gonna bring that energy that's very needed. Because the rest of these are great. I love these people a ton, but they're they're not like they're podcasters, news hosts, news anchors, commentators, and that's great. They obviously are very famous because and successful because they have that personality, but Rob Schneider is very funny. He's a comedian, and so I'm looking forward to that, to see how he does his Charlie best tribute, but also in his own funny way. I'm looking forward to that. I wasn't expecting Rob Schneider to do it, but I'm very happy, and I'm sure this is like a selfish for me, but I'm sure a lot of very funny clips are going to come out of this stop. So I'm very looking forward to that. And unfortunately, I'm in New York, so a lot of these are not going to be near me. So I'm not going to be able to go to them, at least as of now. Maybe I if they come nearer, then I definitely love to go. But it looks like it's going to be a little bit more to the west. But that's great. I'm looking forward to watching all these videos, the live streams, the little clips that go viral. And if you guys are in any of these areas, I'd recommend you guys go. Support the movement. If you're a fan, support Charlie. Support his friends that are here that are gonna support him. And I'm so looking forward to this. And let me know your thoughts, because I think this is gonna be a great tour. Yesterday's was the first one, so it was kind of still getting ready. They're still figuring out how to do everything, but it was great. A lot of people showed up, a lot of supporters, and of course some liberals who either they wanted to debate Michael Knowles or just wanted to hear what the points that were being made. So I thought it was great, and let me know what your thoughts are for this tour, and I hope you can attend. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and if you have any recommendations or any topics that you want me to cover, just let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.